What makes Vladimir Putin so powerful? How did a former government undercover become one of the most notable leaders in world politics? Join me in this video as we explore Putin's rise to power and his impact on Russian and world history. Welcome to Simply Economics, where we put complex topics into easy-to-understand videos. Be sure to subscribe to this channel so we can create more content like this and help you stay informed. Now, let us take a look into the life and legacy of Russia's notorious leader Vladimir Putin. Since coming to power more than 2 decades ago, Putin has managed to transform Russia from a struggling economy to one of the most influential countries in international politics. But what are the stories behind his successes and failures? We'll explore his motivations, actions, and turbulent past in an effort to understand this enigmatic leader better. Early life and education. Vladimir Putin was born on October 7, 1952 in Leningrad, which is now known as St. Petersburg in Russia. He came from an ordinary family and lived as an average, normal person. Putin was an only child who lived with his parents in a shared apartment with 2 other families. His father worked as a foreman in a metal factory, and his mother was a homemaker. According to Putin, his mother, Maria Shelemova, was a kind and benevolent person. They lived a simple life and mostly had cabbage soup, cutlets, and pancakes for meals, with special dishes like purozhki, which were stuffed buns with cabbage, meat, and rice, and vatrushka, or curd tarts, for Sundays and holidays. Putin's father served in the war and later worked as a security guard and foreman at the carriage works in the 1950s. Although religion was banned in the Soviet Union, which was comprised of Russia and several smaller states at the time, his mother arranged for him to be baptized as an Orthodox Christian in secret. Despite being young, Putin was skilled in fighting due to his martial arts training. He excelled in sambo, which is a combination of judo and wrestling, and was ranked highly in it by the age of 16. During his teenage years, Putin displayed ambition and attended School 281, a prestigious high school that only admitted students with exceptional grades. Putin was initially interested in chemistry, which was emphasized by the only institution in Russia. However, later on, he shifted his focus towards liberal arts and biology. During his time at school, he played handball and worked at the school radio station where he played Western rock music. Putin was also fascinated with spy movies and dreamed of working for the KGB in the future. Work in the KGB. Putin graduated from the law department of Leningrad State University in 1975. After graduation, he was selected for a job with the KGB, which is viewed as a counterpart of the US CIA. He was assigned to a branch of the KGB that recruited foreigners to gather information for KGB intelligence. During the early 1980s, Putin got married to his wife, Lyudmila, who was previously a teacher of French and English. He was sent to Dresden, East Germany in 1985 by the KGB and lived there using an alias, Mr. Adamov. His job was to direct the Soviet-German House of Friendship, which is a club for social and cultural purposes. Unlike other KGB agents, Putin seemed to enjoy spending time with Germans and had high regard for their culture. During Putin's visit to East Germany, Mikhail Gorbachev, the president of the Soviet Union then, was implementing economic and social reforms in 1989. Putin supported these changes and was aware of the upcoming fall of the Berlin Wall. However, he was disappointed with how the reunification was handled by the Soviet leadership, as it was chaotic. There are no new details or made-up facts in this rewrite. Venture into Russian politics. After his time working undercover for the KGB, Putin returned to his hometown of Leningrad in 1990. As the Soviet Union started to collapse in 1991, he decided to leave the KGB, where he had attained the rank of colonel, to pursue a career in politics. He began working for Anatoly Sobchak, the mayor of St. Petersburg, as an aide, eventually becoming deputy mayor in 1994. Reportedly, while Putin was in city government, he supported the construction of highways, telecommunications, and hotels in St. Petersburg to attract foreign investment. Although the city didn't become the financial center that some had wanted, it saw improvement as companies like Coca-Cola and Japanese electronics firm NEC invested in the area. Stint at the Kremlin. During Sobchak's unsuccessful 1996 mayoral campaign, Putin was offered a job by the winning candidate, but he rejected it to remain loyal. In 1997, Putin was invited to join the Kremlin, which is the official residence of Russia's president, as the deputy chief administrator, and in March 1999, he became secretary of the Security Council, which advises the president on foreign policy, national security, military, and law enforcement matters. In August 1999, Putin was appointed after Yeltsin had appointed 5 prime ministers in 17 months. Many believe that Putin was not fit to succeed the ailing president due to his lack of political experience and unimpressive appearance and personality. However, his popularity increased due to his involvement in the war in Chechnya and his use of strong language to criticize his opponents. He also blamed the Chechen terrorists for various bombings in Moscow and other areas. As a result, Putin's popularity rating increased significantly, becoming acting president of Russia. The lower house of Russia's parliament, known as the Duma, held elections in December 1999. Putin's newly formed party, Unity, performed impressively and came in second place to the communists. Although Putin was not running in this election, his success in the parliamentary race made him the favored candidate for the upcoming presidential election scheduled for June 2000. In 1999, Yeltsin resigned as president on New Year's Eve and named Putin as the acting president, which surprised many. However, due to Putin's mysterious background as a KGB agent, there was not much information available about him. Because of his past as a spy, some people, including Western media and the US government, were uncertain if he should be considered a threat to the free world. According to a Newsweek report, during Putin's first speech as acting president, he pledged to safeguard fundamental principles such as freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, freedom of the press, and the right to own private property. Furthermore, Putin eliminated several of Yeltsin's supporters and family members from his administration. Putin as elected president. In March 26, 2000, Russians chose Putin as their president among 11 candidates. His initial legislative action after taking office was to get the Duma's approval for the START II arms reduction treaty that had been negotiated 7 years earlier. The treaty called for cutting the nuclear arsenal of both Russia and the United States by half. Putin's decision to prioritize this issue was viewed positively as a sign of his willingness to improve relations with the US. Furthermore, Putin collaborated with a group of economists to create a strategy to enhance Russia's economy, which was one of his initial actions. Afterward, on May 7, 2000, he was inaugurated as Russia's second president and the first to acquire power through a democratic transfer in the country's 1,100-year legacy. Putin as prime minister. United Russia, Putin's party, won a significant number of seats in the parliamentary elections held in December 2007, which reinforced Putin's power. However, the fairness of the election was criticized by the Communist Party of the Russian Federation and international observers. As per constitutional requirements, Putin selected Dmitry Medvedev as his successor, since he had to step down in 2008. After Medvedev's victory in the 2008 presidential election, Putin became the chairman of the United Russia Party. As anticipated, Medvedev nominated Putin as prime minister on his first day in office, and the parliament confirmed the appointment the next day. Despite Medvedev's increasing assertiveness during his term, Putin remained the primary authority in the Kremlin. Putin's third and fourth presidential terms. In his initial year after returning as president, Putin concentrated on subduing the protest movement and succeeded to some extent. The measures taken involved the arrest of opposition leaders and labeling non-governmental organizations that received foreign funds as foreign agents. It was highly expected that Putin would secure his fourth presidential term with a significant lead as the March 2018 election approached. Despite being the opposition face, Alexei Navalny, a Russian lawyer and activist, wasn't allowed to contest. Pavel Grudinin, the communist candidate, had to face constant criticism from the state-run media. No term limits for Russia's president. In 2020, Putin declared that he planned to change the Russian constitution, allowing presidents to serve without term limits. This would make it possible for him to stay in office for an unlimited amount of time. As a result, Medvedev resigned from his position as prime minister, explaining that a new government would give Putin the freedom to make important decisions. The Russian legislature quickly approved the proposed constitutional changes, but Putin decided to hold a national referendum. Critics deemed this move as mere political theater. Predictably, the outcome strongly supported Putin's agenda, but opposition groups pointed out the absence of impartial supervision during the election process. Russian invasion of Ukraine. In late 2021, Putin ordered a significant increase in the number of Russian forces along the Ukrainian border, with additional units being sent to Belarus for joint military exercises. By February 2022, up to 190,000 Russian troops were ready to attack Ukraine from forward bases in Russia, Russian-occupied Crimea, Belarus, and the Russian-supported separatist enclave of Transnistria in Moldova. On February 24th, Putin announced a special military operation in the early morning hours, which resulted in explosions being heard in cities throughout Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that his country would defend itself, and Western leaders condemned the attack, vowing to impose harsh sanctions against Russia. Putin's war in Ukraine became a failure. Despite Putin's intentions to divide the West and regain Russia's power over the former Soviet Union countries, his plan failed. Instead, the European Union gave Ukraine candidate status on June 23, 2022. After suffering significant losses in Ukrainian counteroffensives, Putin announced a partial mobilization of 300,000 troops on September 21, 2022. There were concerns that people without military training were being recruited, despite previous assurances that only combat veterans would be called up. This sparked protests throughout Russia, and many men of military age left the country, totaling hundreds of thousands. A law was passed by Putin that made it a crime to criticize the war effort, punishable with up to 15 years in prison. Officials and wealthy individuals who angered Putin often died under mysterious circumstances, with a surprisingly high number falling out of windows. Russia struggles as a global power under Putin. Russia's international reputation suffered significantly after a year of war. Additionally, their economy was struggling due to sanctions, and their leader seemed more vulnerable than ever before in his 25-year rule. This is the story of how Vladimir Putin went from being relatively unknown to becoming one of the most influential figures in global politics. His actions have had far-reaching implications for Russia and beyond, and it remains to be seen what the future holds for him and his country. As always, thank you for watching Simply Economics. Be sure to subscribe for more videos like this. See you next time.